Well, hello there. Welcome once more to Kwancho's Kitchen. And if this is your first time stopping by, I would like to say a very warm welcome to you. Yes, friends, it is your Gari o'clock. I don't know if you know what your Gari is, but it is a very popular street food in Ghana. Of course, most of us also had it at home growing up. It is just black-eyed peas served with some Gari, which is made from cassava, some palm oil. Yes, this is golden, real liquid gold over it, with some ripe plantains that are fried. Perfect when it's served with some sliced avocado as well. This is just a match made in food heaven. So good. Come along with me and let's do some cooking. Let's start off by soaking some black-eyed peas. So I'm going to pour about 3 cups into my bowl, and to that I'm going to add some water to cover and then let it soak for about 5 to 6 hours. The plan was to come back from church and then cook this. I ended up going to visit a top fan who had come from Canada to the States to visit her niece. Check my community post if you're subscribed to see this beautiful lady. So I ended up cooking this the next day. So as you can see, my beans has really swollen, which is ideal. Ideally, you would want to soak your beans overnight. So this is actually perfect, and I'm going to strain it, wash it, and then get it ready to cook. It is no news that beans causes a lot of bloating. It can make you very gassy. One of the best ways for you to help make sure that this doesn't happen, or to reduce the chances of it happening, is to soak your beans, preferably overnight. So yay, I actually ended up soaking this overnight, even though that wasn't my intention. So all the better for me. And I'm going to make sure that it is very well washed or rinsed off before you cook it. That way it is also going to help in that regard. So I rinsed it off, drained all the water, the one with the bubbles and everything that stayed on the beans overnight. I have transferred it back into my bowl. I'm going to give it another wash, strain it, and then just run some more water over this to make sure that it is very washed off from everything else that is sitting on the beans, and hopefully that is going to help make it less gassy. I see a few of the beans with holes in them, and those are the ones that I'm just trying to fish out. And now I'm transferring my thoroughly rinsed off beans into my cooking pot, adding some water. You want this water to just come right above your beans, just like this. And I'm going to cover and bring to a boil. Beans normally makes a lot of foam when it starts to boil, just like this. So the whole time you have your beans covered, you want to make sure that you're paying attention so it doesn't just boil over and make a mess. I'd like to skim some of the foam from the top of my beans. You can feel free to just let this cook all the way through. It is just going to end up just disappearing. I feel like it's just part of what is going to cause all the bloat, so I'm just going to try to scoop as much of it as I possibly can. And this time around, I'm not going to cover my pot all the way. I'm just going to let it sit partially on it so it vents, to prevent my beans from foaming over. Here are the ingredients I'm going to be adding to my beans to give you that legit Gari vibe. So I'm going to be using some onions. These are shallot onions actually. You can definitely use red or white onions, whatever is available to you, but I just really wanted to go the authentic route if I could. Back in the day they would use some shallots, so I've cut some up. I'm going to blend this with this pepper, and that is going to go straight into the beans with some of the momone. Momone is fermented fish, so it is cured and fermented fish. It has a very pungent smell, but when it's cooked it just gives a good aroma and flavor to your food. So I've set that aside. That is going to be blended later. I'm just going to slice the other 3 pieces of shallots that I have here, and that is going to go into my oil, the palm oil, to fry. If you saw in the beginning, you saw how crisp they were, very crunchy, very caramelized. And the beautiful flavor and aroma that the almost burnt shallots bring to the palm oil, and the whole dish when it's all combined is just, I would say, phenomenal. It is something that you really need to try. You really want to give your onions just that extra time to get to be perfectly caramelized, because I tell you, that made a whole lot of difference. This was the best homemade Gari I ever had. I'm not kidding you at all. So checking on my beans, it has cooked for about 40 minutes at this time. It is almost done, but it has just the very core of the bean is still a little bit hard. So I'm going to add a little bit more water to this. That is 1.5 cups of water in total. Throw in my momone, which is the cured or fermented fish. You can actually find this in most Asian supermarkets. The fermented mackerel or cured mackerel works just as well. And I'm just going to let it get into the bottom, cover it, and the heat is going to help it just disintegrate. So I'm blending my shallots and my pepper at this point, and that is going to go in here in the beans. But first I'm going to add in my shrimp powder. So this is just dried or smoked shrimp that has been made into powder. I blended it myself, so I let it be a little bit coarse. This is 2.5 tablespoons. I'm using this in place of a stock cube, like a Maggi cube, a shrimp tablet, or anything. So you can use whatever you like. You can use the shrimp, which for me it's a healthier option, but definitely use any stock cube if that's what is available to you. I've added my blended pepper and shallots in here at this point. Rinsed off my blender a little bit so I get everything in here. I'm just going to go ahead and stir so everything is well incorporated in here, and let it just cook down a little bit. I think this is a perfect time for me to add in some salt. Our beans is literally all cooked now, so adding salt at this point is not going to deter it from cooking as fast as people believe. So it is a perfect time. I've added some salt. Also remember that your fermented fish, which is going to be here, the one in the beans, as well as what you're going to add in your palm oil, combined is going to set your food off towards a very salty end already. So make sure that however much salt you are going to add in here, you are being mindful so you don't end up having food that is overly salty. So that is done. I'm going to start working on my palm oil. To me, this is what really makes your Gari legit. So this is very, very important. I have here palm oil. This is actually from palm nut soup that I previously made. I've let it warm up a little bit, added in here my sliced shallots, and then my momone. So it's in here now. I'm just going to let this be on low to medium heat. Let it take its sweet time for the momone to infuse, to dissolve, and the onions to cook, and then start getting a little bit burnt. You know what I mean? Like getting caramelized. And then that oil is just going to just smell so good. And when you add this to your beans and your Gari, you will know for sure that this is just different. If you haven't done it this way, I really hadn't, and so this is just an upgraded recipe. I'm so happy I did it this time, and I'm so happy I filmed it, because when you try it this way, I know you are going to come here in the comment section or somewhere on Instagram or Facebook and let me know the difference. This is just so good. At this point, my onions are beginning to have a little bit of crispiness to it. The momone, it's all dissolved in here now. And just when I see that the sides of my pot has a little bit of caramelized onions around this time, I just turned off my flame, and then just let the residual heat do everything else.
Delicious. Can you smell the aroma?
So our infused oil is all set. Beans is almost cooked, and it's a perfect time for us to start frying our plantains. So I have some ripe plantains. These are ripe to perfection, not overly ripe. This is just at the peak of ripeness. You can have it as sweet or as less sweet as you want. So if you don't want your plantains to be very soft, maybe you want it a little firmer, but this is exactly how I want mine. So I'm just going to cut it up, and then we'll start getting ready to fry. I'm just going to season my plantains with a little bit of salt, add a little bit of water so it's easy for me to just coat the salt. So now I'm just going to have a little bit of brine or salt water to just let my plantains just swim around in, and then I'll get my oil ready so we can start frying our plantains. Well, meanwhile, we are going to check on our beans now. It is at this point perfectly cooked, very soft, as you can tell. The aromas here, oh my gosh, that infused momone in here is just making me so hungry already. And we have just enough amount of moisture on our beans now, and I'm just gonna go ahead and just turn off the flame, cover this, and let it just sit and wait for everything else to tie together. So I have some oil here today. I'm using a little bit of avocado oil to fry my plantains, and so that is all here now. I'm making sure that it is heated up. At this point I think it is sizzling enough for me to fry my plantains. So into the oil they go.
Delicious, yeah, delicious, da-da, delicious, yeah, delicious, da-da-da, delicious, delicious, da-da, delicious, yeah, delicious. Can you smell the aroma, yeah, from what she was kitchen, yeah, da-da, delicious, yeah, delicious.
You want to fry your plantain for about 4 minutes on either side, or until either side looks golden, and then it is ready to come out of the oil.
Delicious. 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 Can you smell the aroma?
Transfer your fried plantains onto a plate lined with paper towel or onto a strainer so it's able to just give off some of the excess oil, and repeat this process until everything is done. So I'm going to get everything out of my oil here. I still have a few more plantains to fry. This is part of a meal prep, so quite a little bit more extra for the next few days. So the plantains are done being fried, and so at this point it is time for us to just assemble everything. I have some avocado here, and just look at this. This is even just like the ones back home, just that the ones back home are a little bit creamier, but just look at how gorgeous this is on the inside. This is when you feel like you just hit a jackpot, okay? You know how the feeling is when you just cut through an avocado and it looks so good. I just did the happy dance. I've sliced my avocado, and here we are, everything all set up. Just look at how gorgeous this avocado looks. The Gari is here. This is just from cassava. I have my oil. See how caramelized the onions are in here. My fried plantains, and of course the beans. Gobeno asete. Feeling now you deep for her. Just look at that. Just look at that. You want it? Make your own. You want it? Make your own. Sincerely, I wish I could invite you, but you know, it's just not going to happen until somebody just comes up with the technology where I can say you're invited and you can actually take a bite. Please, please, please try this at home. I know for sure you're going to love it. So I've skipped some beans here. I'm adding my Gari on top. Still, I don't know which way is the best, the palm oil or the Gari, but I just feel like putogum shigum ninyina eko kwansen krono aramu. So yes, I'm adding some oil. Please don't think this is a lot of oil, because it's pretty much all onions I'm scooping on here. As you can see, just a little bit of oil, and look at how perfect. Just look at that. Just look at that. I think I can use a little bit more Gari, so I'm going to add a little bit Gari to this. Also be mindful of the fact that once the gari, this is just fine, fine grain, so very dehydrated. Once it starts soaking up the moisture in your beans, it is going to swell up and thicken. So don't put too much gari, otherwise it's just going to be too much and it's going to overpower the beans. Okay, so a little bit of palm oil, a little bit more gari in here, and this is just a beautiful, perfect combination. At this point, I think the consistency is perfect, and I just wish I had some leaves, but since I don't have some leaves, I'm going to transfer this into a bowl. This is just for presentation. At home, you don't want to be that extra if you really don't need to be, but okay, we want to present our food and put Ghana on the map. Okay, so here we are, the avocados. Here I have some of the plantains here lined up beautifully as well. I'm sorry my camera is not focusing well at this point, but just look at how gorgeous this is. It smells so good. I just can't wait to dig in, and I really want you to try this. Thanks so much for watching. If this is your first time watching me, my name is Kwanchua, and making simple meals like this is what truly makes my heart happy, and I hope you subscribe to my channel and be part of the KK family. So this is how we do it. Cut a piece of your fried plantain or cocoa, scoop up some gari and beans, top it off with a slice of avocado. Yes, this is an irresistible bite, a match made in food heaven. So good. Kindly like and share this video, and until I come your way next time with something delicious, be loving, be kind, be happy.